do it. Actually, we had two in Wisconsin this last session. Dane County and River Falls. Both of those places passed. Dane County passed with a higher percentage of the vote than any elected official, meaning they got like 73% for favor for medical marijuana. Highest official was 68% or something like that, you know. Excuse me. But yeah, that's one thing that we've talked about also. We would like to do a ballot initiative on a statewide basis. Most of those campaigns cost about $1 million, $1.5 million. Some states have done it for $700,000 or so. I don't got $1 million. We don't have $1 million. Write the check. Yeah, go see it.
So what does that do for the state and county?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So then, if we were to get $1 million and do that here, then
nothing. Absolutely nothing. The $1 million would be better spent getting somebody elected to get in behind the doors and push the issue.
Ron Paul.
Or, well, Ron Paul isn't going to do it in Wisconsin. Ron Paul could be president. HR 2306 could be enacted tomorrow. We could remove the federal ban on prohibition. Scott Walker could make, I shouldn't say Scott Walker, any legislator could make the laws in Wisconsin more strict than what they are. That's the beauty of our next bill. Let's bounce into our next bill, then we'll come back and talk more about ballot initiatives, things we can do. We're going to close that up on the end. Is it a good thing to have a ballot initiative? Yes, because it's going to get your people out there. Even if we don't turn in the signatures to get it on the ballot, let's start collecting signatures to find out who is supporting this type of thing, you know. So there's several different ways you can go about doing it. Like I said, if you know all of your county executives, you can approach it at the county level. They as county board members can get it on the ballot, you know. So there's several different ways to go about doing it. But unfortunately, Wisconsin is not a ballot initiative state, and it's not legal binding once we get to that point. Anyway, so. But that brings us up to our next bill. Let's pass this one around real quick. This is the big one. This is the caveat. This is the one that was just introduced that everybody seems to be talking about. It's HR 2306. HR 2306. And it's really called to support federal legislation to end marijuana prohibition. So I'm going to read it to you because it's a good statement, but in a nutshell, when they ended alcohol prohibition, they basically said, states, do what you want. We know each of you are going to do something differently. We're going to take the best and the worst of your trials and tribulations on what to do with alcohol, and we're going to develop a federal policy on that. So, how we spoke before, Ron Paul, even though this legislation could go through, there are going to be states that go stricter on the marijuana law, and that's what the federal government wants. And there are states that are going to totally legalize it, and that's what the federal government wants, because they want to see the dynamics of this. You know, is the state that legalized it experienced the gold rush, or are they just the same as the states that didn't legalize it? You know, is it so? It's a test of the water. But HR 2306 is very, very, very important. We need you to urge your representatives to sponsor and co-sponsor this important legislation, the federal legislation to end marijuana prohibition. And really, if we think about it, this is the first time lawmakers have introduced legislation in Congress that seeks to end the federal criminalization of the personal use of marijuana. HR 2306, entitled the Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act of 2011, prohibits the federal government from prosecuting adults who use or possess marijuana by removing the plant and its primary psychoactive constituent, THC, from the 5 schedules in the United States Controlled Substance Act of 1970. So it's going to, HR 2306 completely removes it from the Controlled Substance Act. Under the present law, all varieties of marijuana plant are defined as the illicit Schedule I controlled substance, defined as possessing a high potential for abuse and currently no accepted medical use or treatment. So we can see states that have medical marijuana laws are already showing that the Controlled Substance Act is contradictory because it does have medical use. So on a side note, if HR 2306 does pass, we automatically will have industrial hemp in Wisconsin because it removes that from that barrier. You know, so it's important for industrial hemp also too. The 2306 is really designed federally to deregulate the personal possession and use of marijuana by adults. It really, again, it marks the first time since members of Congress have introduced legislation to eliminate federal criminalization. And this is all the way back to 1937. So we've never even had a bill introduced in the last 70 years that tried to, you know, repeal the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act. So this is very historic, and this is huge. This is historic. It was a bipartisan bill, too. It was introduced by both Republicans and Democrats. Again, the language in the act mimics changes enacted by Congress to repeal the federal prohibition of alcohol, like I first let it off. It's almost an exact bill, except we're dealing with a different substance. Passage of this measure would remove the existing conflict at the federal laws in those 16 states also. Would also allow the state governments which fully wish to legalize and regulate responsible use, they're going to be able to do so without federal interference. So the federal criminalization of marijuana has failed to reduce the public's demand and access to cannabis. It has been imposed enormous financial costs, human costs, amongst the people that are supposed to protect us, the American people. It's time to end this public policy failure and provide state governments with the freedom to enact alternative strategies. That's what we're talking about. In these times, everything should be on the table. We need to look at alternatives. And the alternatives are, the coined terms that we use are medicalization, decriminalization, and legalization. You know, those are three distinctly different things. Wisconsin may not have either one of those. We may embrace one or the other. But there's medicalization, decriminalization, and full outright legalization. So what we need to do is we need to get as many people as we can to support this issue. Right now, H.R. 2306 is stuck at a standstill. Although we're a democracy, we through the appointments of people on committees, we elect people and then we limit the power of everybody else we elect just to one or two people. And in this case, this bill needs to get put through a committee and have a hearing before it can get voted on. And the two people who can let it go into committee are not allowing it at this point. There's one from Michigan. I don't know his name off right hand, but he's not the main target right now. He's a Republican, but he leans more to the left a little bit. Kind of something, yes?
You just ran out of those sheets.
Did I?
Yeah, they didn't even make it.
Wow.
What? Which ones? The ones we...
The HR.
Just sign it. The 2306.
2306.
You have them on your website.
Yeah, it's on our website. You can print them off. Like I said, if you want to print them off, bring them back to our next meeting. We can collect them then. I apologize, not knowing exactly how many people are going to turn out or whatnot. But actually, when people saw it setting up, everybody was grabbing the form. Hey, can I sign? Can I sign? So just by having the sign sitting outside by the library as we were bringing stuff in, people were signing forms. So I got a car full of them that people were signing them through. So, like I said, it's not hard. I mean, literally, this happens every place we go, that we run out of forms to sign. So we need to make more. So,
I lost my train. You were talking about the committee and...
oh, yeah. So write a name down. Everybody who has pens, or else go to our blog. You can certainly find it. It's Lamar Smith, S-M-I-T-H, Lamar, L-A-M-A-R. He's a Texas congressional Republican who sits on the committee or who heads the committee that would see this bill. And basically he has stated, I think America has bigger problems to worry about right now. I'm not going to let that bill go to committee. So that's the last word. There's a big public awareness campaign to push his office to do so. Normal in Texas has actively pursued it, showed up at Alice listening sessions, so his Republican fundraisers, those types of things. But we can certainly do that also. He's the guy to contact. Again, that information is on our website. It's everywhere. So the important thing is to let people know what's out there. People are still unaware that the legislation was introduced on the federal level. On the state level, we do not have active legislation that I am aware of. There's an active push for a hemp bill to be reintroduced. A hemp bill in Wisconsin has traditionally been bipartisan, both Republicans and Democrats supporting it. The Republicans who supported the hemp issue in the past are sitting on committees now. They're not taking lead sponsorship on bills that might come before them as the committee. It's just kind of like the unwritten rule in politics that if you sit on a committee and there's going to be a bill coming through, then you don't sponsor that particular bill. But go ahead.
When somebody makes a statement, I think America has bigger problems, do you usually see that as being a cop-out? Do you feel it's a cop-out most of the time?
Texas itself, if you look at Texas, that's really the dynamics of where that comes from. Because, answer the question shortly, no, I don't feel it's a cop-out. I feel it is a lack of education, a lack of constituents contacting him.